Greetings, my fellow Americans and all people around the world who embrace the idealism of life, liberty, freedom, and property. There's been a thing that's been going around with social media. This is a real quick one, hopefully. Social media and the media and influencers who have been saying that black Republicans are being paraded around to try to show how unracist the Republicans are. There's two things that I take issue with. One, that conservatives are racists, and conservative means racism. And two, that we poor Negroes who are conservatives and who are Republicans and who value individual thought and individual freedom and individual sovereignty are somehow placating or are shields to the Republican idealism of this country, or the idealism of this country, which was based upon the idea of unalienable rights. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't great in the beginning, but things were made to try to fix it. Now, two things, right? Every single time you talk about how racist a policy is that came from the Democrats, what do? Black people voted for it too. This is not about a whataboutism. This is about actual facts. 1994 crime bill. Black caucus voted for it. Why did the Black caucus vote for it? To save Bill Clinton, a white man's job. Okay? You have and then Joe Biden, who is the author and one of the sponsors of the bill, is now president of the United States, who has said that if you don't vote for me, then you're not black. If the Negro this and the Negro that and all these other nonsensical things. And you know what? He gets a free pass. You know, other presidents who are not Democrats and who the establishment doesn't support, they think a racist thought and they're through. They say something overtly racist, like the black prison population is out of control. You know, why is that? Well, because at this moment in time, you know, black people are responsible for 60% of robberies, 50-something% of homicides, so on and so forth. You know, in California, which is supposed to be the most wokest state, there are a total of 48% of blacks who are incarcerated. 48%. And guess how much the male population in California is? 6%. 6% of the population accounts for nearly half of the population that is in prison. Why is that? Because the progressive movement supports controlling the black population. Prime example, Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is a prime example. The first time it was ever put in was to ensure that black people could not gain their freedom. What's her name? Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman carried a pistol. Every single black freedom fighter, with the exception of Martin Luther King and other people on that nonviolent side, carried weapons to defend themselves. Martin Luther King had security. I don't know if they were armed, but I would assume that they may have been. All right. Martin Luther King himself also owned weapons to defend his family. Okay. He didn't use them. He didn't brandish them. He spoke about nonviolence, but he had these things to protect himself. Listen, people, if you want to see how bad your government will treat you, all you have to do is look at black history once they rip away your Second Amendment. It is a prime example of what happens when you are not able to defend yourself from your oppressive neighbors or your oppressive government. It's a prime example. Black people were the example of why you need the weapons in order to defend yourself. Here's the thing that is also crazy. The progressives are teaching that white people are inherently racist. Abortion. Who is the founder of Planned Parenthood? Was this person a eugenist? Did this person believe that black people were inferior? Did this person believe that if the black population went unchecked, that it would be the detriment to society? Yes, to every single one of those. This person, Margaret Sanger, spoke with the KKK, got people on board, and guess what? Used black people who supported her idea of birth control in the form of abortion to help support and further the agenda of population control in the black community. Do you understand? Can you just let that soak in for a second? So it's okay for the progressive movement and the progressive agenda to take their house Negroes, their house slaves, and march them in front of cameras. It's okay for black slavers like Reverend Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton to get on TV and talk about how inherently racist white people are, and then support the inherently systemic racist policies that continue to keep black people oppressed. They're teaching white supremacy. When you say white privilege, you are teaching white supremacy. What is white supremacy? It's a person who believes that they are born superior. What is white privilege? A person who is born with an inherent advantage. So they just churched it up a little bit. So they are actually teaching black folks that whites are superior to them, and the only way that they can get ahead is if whites allow them to. And you have black people like LeBron James, like Kevin Hart, like Don Lemon, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, talking about how white privilege keeps black people down, and yet then they turn around and when they're talking to people, they talk about hard work, they talk about determination, they talk about a no-quit attitude, they talk about when a door is closed for you, you go and you find another door, you kick down the door. If you can't kick down the door, then you move on. You keep moving forward. You don't stop. You don't let anybody stop you. You don't let anybody's idea of who you are stop you. You don't let anybody who is racist stop you. You don't let any of the haters stop you. And that is guaranteed to them by the Constitution of the United States. Inalienable rights. So on one hand, they're saying that my hard work and determination. You look at LeBron James. He went to a school. He said on his little TV show where they were doing barber haircuts and crap. He said that he went to a school. He didn't want to have anything to do with white people. You know, he didn't want to have anything to do with white people. He had a certain idea about how they were, who they were, and what they were about, and he had preconceived ideas about them. Their ideas about him. He had preconceived ideas about how they thought about him, and so he wasn't going to have none of it and have nothing to do with them. It wasn't there was no racism stopped LeBron James. No racism stopped Obama. No racism stopped Cory Booker. We're talking about politicians and sports figures, comedians, entrepreneurs. Ben Carson, who was the number one neurosurgeon. You have Frederick Douglass, who was a slave, and it was illegal for him to read. Who taught himself how to read. None of them. Racism did not stop him. So why is it important that you have 48% of people who are incarcerated in jail, who are 6% of the population? Why is that important? Because if you get convicted of anything like a felony, then you can't own a weapon. Well, how do you keep people down? You make sure that they're dependent upon the government. You separate children from fathers from two-parent homes. Let's say that. You separate children from two-parent homes. That makes sure that they stay impoverished. Every single black leader talks about how fathers are important, two-parent homes are important, and the statistical chance of you getting yourself into trouble and being impoverished goes up astronomically when you are raised in a single parent home. Raised, not guaranteed. All right. So prior to 1965, the single parent rate was under 30%. For black families, it was under 30%. It was still much higher than everybody else in the entire nation. With white families, white single parents, it was single digits. I think it was something like 4%. For Hispanics, it was single digits. Everybody else was single digits, and it was shocking to see that you had the family and single parent families were 25%. I think it was in the less 30% or less in the black community. So you had about a quarter of the population of blacks who were being raised in single parent homes. After the expansion of welfare, which included single parents, and which included things like if you have a vehicle that is worth so much, then you don't get certain benefits. If you have the biological father living in the same house, then you don't get benefits. If you don't, they had all these stipulations which encouraged separation between father and son. Father and children, right? You had all these stipulations and obstacles to get in the way between to separate the single parent home. This happened within my father's own family. This happened, so it's not like it's made up, So now you have a generation of children who grow up in a single parent home that's dependent upon the government, that is providing crappy schooling for these children who are in impoverished areas, which is by design, which doesn't give tax money to these people. You have police brutality, you have a racist mentality, you have all of these things that are encompassing and surrounding black people. And now these kids are growing up, and the majority of them are going into prison and getting themselves into trouble. Then they're making babies, they're getting taken into prison, that now they can't purchase and protect firearms regardless of how wonderful citizens that they've become. The wait period for firearms grows exponentially. The cost to be able to get a firearm grows exponentially. These things all happened during the price gouging and all these things that you need to do in order to get a concealed weapon carried to protect yourself and your family in bad neighborhoods. All these things happened. Look at what happened to the Black Panthers. It wasn't a Democrat the Democrats have been, but Ronald, when the Black Panthers marched on the Capitol building, that was Ronald Reagan who decided to get more gun control, because that scared the crap out of white folks, So is everybody perfect? No, but I tell you who is really hurting us now. It is the Democrats, the proletariat Democrats, who believe that you can't think, you can't do for self, they know better. It's the Lenin version of Marxism, right? The common man is not smart enough to make decisions on their own. Therefore, we, the intelligent vanguard, the proletariat vanguard, aka in America, the progressive vanguard, will help guide you, because you are too dumb to do it for yourself. Niggers are too dumb to get on the computer and figure out how to get a voter ID. They're too dumb but they're not too dumb to get welfare. We're going to make it as simple as possible for them to get welfare. we're going to make sure that they get themselves in trouble. We're going to make sure that their population isn't. Every single one, eugenists, racists. The first gun control in this country was during the slavery days. No black people could own, carry ammunition, guns, or knives. Who is supporting that now? Eugenists who believe that white people were superior, black people were inferior, that if they were left to breed uncontrollably, that they would outbreed the intelligent, good breeding stock, and then plummet this nation and the world society into chaos and poverty and death. That was her earnest belief, and therefore introduced things like forced sterilization, voluntary sterilization, Planned Parenthood, which includes not just contraceptives and condoms and pills and things like that, but also abortions, and encourages black leaders to go into their communities and say, hey, you know what? You need to not have babies. Instead of teaching how precious life is and moral upstanding, she said it was impossible. In her book, In a Pivot of Civilization, she said it is impossible for some people to be able to control their animalistic urges. So we, as intelligent people, need to put controls on them in order to stifle their population growth. And this is what we're supporting. This is what the progressives are supporting. This is exactly what they're supporting. They're supporting racist gun control laws that keep firearms out of people who are trying to protect their lives. The job disparity between whites and blacks in California. There are more black people, 6% more. There are more black people, 6% of the population, who in California who don't have a job than in Alabama, in Florida, in the Florida black unemployment rate is lower than in California. Ridiculously lower in DC. Aren't these people supposed to be helping black people? Coincidentally enough, California also has a $15 minimum wage. Same thing. It's not quite. I think it's like $14, $10, something like that. But in certain cities, they have $15 minimum wage, like in San Francisco and different things like that. In DC, they have a $15 minimum wage. And there are more. There's something like 14%. 14% of the black 14% is the black unemployment rate in DC. Florida does not have $15 an hour minimum wage, and yet they have something like what was it? It was less than 10. I can't remember what the number is right off the top of my head. What was it? What did I say? Alabama, or I think it was Alabama as well, had something like 4%. California is like 10 point something. It's more than 10%. So these states that they claim to be these southern racists have better employment, or a lower unemployment rate for black people than these woke states. And the population in these racist states for blacks of blacks are higher as far as the density percentages go than in California. Not so much DC. So minimum wage is racist. We know that because it's been used in apartheid Africa. It has been used in Australia. It's been used in California to make sure that when they were the Asians couldn't get jobs and during the railroad times, or try to keep it under control. They used it in the Davis-Bacon Act, the Davis/Bacon Act, to ensure that white contractors within the state could get the job by enforcing a minimum wage, because southern contractors who use black labor couldn't afford to raise the prices that much, because it hurt their bottom line, because it was going to cause inflation. It has been historical. All you have to do is read Thomas Sowell's book, Walter Williams' book. Larry Elder touches on it. All these people who they claim to be the Sambos of and Uncle Toms of the black community. Last but not least, this whole COVID response, it is a well-known documented fact that black people have suffered from COVID harder than most other communities. It is also a well-known fact that through distribution and other reasons and supply chains, that the vaccines have not been as available for the black community as it has been for other communities. And then these woke states like California and New York, where they have these populations, enforce vaccine passports. Everyone's bragging about, just think about that. Just think about that. The last thing I'm going to touch on is the Biden bragging about the jobs. Actually, I'm going to say that for another video. People, all you have to do, please, just look at the agenda and look at what people do. That's the biggest problem. We just put labels on people and we just say, hey, if you're a Republican, then you're a Trump supporter, then you support the insurrection of that happened on January 6th, when you had an entire movement that went on for a year, that disrupted governments throughout the states. Fear, liberty over fear. I will take liberty over fear any day. I don't want to live in fear. I want to live the way that I want to live. I am an individual. I am a human being. I am a man who has God-given, unalienable rights that cannot be taken or given. These are mine, guaranteed to me by my very existence. You will not take away my right of speech, my right of individuality, my right to defend myself, my right to privacy. You will not take these things away from me. And that's the way that we have to think in America today, because it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. It's whether or not I'm vaccinated has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do with you. Because let's go over the list. Can you still get sick? Yes. Can you still die? Yes. Can you still infect others? Yes. Even if you have the booster shots? Yes. Can you still get it, be asymptomatic, and still pass it even though you're vaccinated? Yes, on all fronts. These things have been known since February of 2020. Before they even really started doing these mass things. If they're so effective, why did Israel have a spike with over 60% of their population vaccinated and have booster shots, still getting sick? England, spikes regardless of vaccination. Massachusetts, 70% of the new infection rate back a few months in July were vaccinated people. It's I'm all for vaccines. I'm all for vaccines. But they're trying to sell this vaccine as a way to stop the spread when it wasn't designed to stop the spread. It might have been designed to stop the spread of the Alpha variant, but it's not going to stop the spread of the Delta variant or any other new variants that come along. And these booster shots are doing nothing but putting more and more money into Big Pharma. How can you not see this, people? That's one of the things that I disagree with. Here's another thing that's dumb. This vaccine that they're pushing has originated from the Trump camp, from the Trump administration. So they're forcing they're forcing something onto you that came from the Trump administration. Guess what? Before this vaccine, Trump was talking about it. I know of many conservatives personally and myself, I wasn't going to take it. You know, I do not trust the government when they say this is good for you. And then they force you to take it. I'm an individual. Do not force me to take something that I don't want to take. It's my body, my choice, unless the government decides to change their mind. I don't want the government putting things in my body. I don't want the government making rules about my body. But yet they can go ahead and they can force people to get vaccines. Come on, man. You guys got to wake up. See, they're so worked up on divide and divisiveness, you know? It's just crazy. There are people who are on the right, who are on the camp. If you don't agree with us, then you need to go away. There are those people. But all progressives, all of them, think that way. If you don't agree with everything that we believe in, then you are a bigot of some sort. If you question the legitimacy of biological male and female brains, I mean the illegitimacy of male and female brains, or the illegitimacy of I claim I am female or I claim that I am male when I am actually the opposite sex, then you're a transphobic. And that doesn't even reach the definition of phobia. If you think that hard work and determination will get you ahead when there is proof with every single successful black person in America today. Oprah Winfrey, regardless of the being in the boys club, regardless of race relations, regardless of the stigma and the things that she had to go through and the obstacles that she had to overcome, she is successful in spite of those things. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me how you can try to blame society for something that you are in control of. White people are inherently racist. Gavin Newsom, right? Margaret Sanger, what's that fool's name? Joe Biden, all these people. Joe Biden said, if you elect me, I guarantee you I'm gonna get a black woman as a vice president. Smile. Roll your eyes, Kamala Harris, after you just got done accusing this man, saying that you believe women. And he has been accused of all sorts of misconduct. After you say that he voted for segregational policies, that he helped enforce black incarceration, and then you jump on the bandwagon, you do your little dance, you roll your eyes for massa, and then, everyone's all proud of you because he placated. He was playing you guys. I'm gonna get myself a nigger woman up here, and she's gonna serve with me, and we're gonna be equals. What? You haven't heard garbage from her. We did it, Joe. It's flabbergasting to me. And everyone's like, oh, you know what? When she became the first DEA and the first of like, I think San Francisco, she became the first something or other of the state. Before they did this whole first black president, she claimed her Indian heritage. Didn't once say I'm the first Indian black American. It was all Indian. I am the first Indian to do this. As far as India, right? And now all of a sudden, you don't hear anything about that Indian heritage. You guys are getting played, man. It's so aggravating. All right, folks, I gotta feed my son. We gotta get going on our move, and I'll be putting up some better quality videos here when I get my move and my studio set up. Because we gotta get serious. We gotta get educated on the weapons that the people that the progressives are using against us to try to say that America is racist. They're trying to rewrite the Constitution as a racist document that supports white only success. and the evidence that presents itself goes totally against that narrative. Stay free, stay smart, and God bless.